Okay, so I don't forget what take this is, but okay, so this is going to be a three-part series. The first two are going to be more of a wide-ranging. Third one's going to look at a specific example that I want to take a closer look at. These first two are going to look at examples of bias in media, and so this first one is just going to be about pop culture. We'll get to the more political stuff next time. But this first one is more on a pop culture angle, how it's affected like movies and stuff like that. So I think I think from a certain perspective, the media has always been a little biased. I mean, it wasn't that for but it was always there, like what stories they would tell, which ones they wouldn't. But I think it really got like really, really big around about 2016, the election, it did stuff, I think the first big example is the movie Ghostbusters, which was the reboot with all the women that came out in 2016. They just kind of call it Ghostbusters 2016 now. And we can debate the merits of whether it was actually a good movie all day long if we wanted to. But we're just gonna look at like the I don't know, like the aftermath was, I guess. That's how you could describe it. So so when this movie was marketed as like a sequel, and then it was in actuality a reboot, but they marketed like a sequel. And so when everyone went to see it and it turned out to be a reboot, they weren't big fans of that because, well, false advertising. And so what came out of that is, and on the whole, some people just didn't like it because they just didn't like it as a movie. But as what came out of that was the media started spinning this narrative that if you didn't like the movie, somehow you didn't like women. And this was like all the big it was more pop culture sites like I don't know, like Vox or IO9 or something, and Vice Media. But it was also in a couple of other places. Like I remember there was a CNN article about it. And then it somehow morphed into this somehow political statement where if you didn't go see the movie, you somehow were a Trump supporter and just was a terrible person. And there was a very big article about that on Newsarama, which was friggin' whack. I mean, Jesus. And then that was the leftist media, and then the right media, and then the I don't know, Republic, like rightist. I don't know. Is that even a word? The media is more to the right. Let's put it like that, like Fox News and all those people. It was just like they're trying to erase the men, and it was the whole thing, and it being 2016, of course, and everybody was caught up in the election, and who's gonna win. Of course, I don't know how that turned out, but and then it got them a lot of views. It made them a lot of money, so they kept on doing it. I think the next big example of this was good old The Last Jedi, not gonna we're not gonna talk about the movie itself. Might just be the most controversial Star Wars movie. Let's put it that way. I think everyone can agree more on the other ones, but this one's it kind of like split the whole fan base down like 50-50, with some people loving it and some people just absolutely despising it. But what happened was they well, aside from the Space Mary Poppins thing, which was dumb, they kind of like they committed character assassination on Luke Skywalker. Let's just say it like this. He got absolutely like the worst case of character assassination of all time. I mean, let's just look at it from episode 6 to now. I mean, in episode 6 he spent like the entire movie trying to redeem his genocidal maniac of a dad, and then in this one he's trying to kill his nephew in his sleep because he had a bad dream, and it just wasn't Luke Skywalker, which I think we can all let's just that's the bet was we're gonna talk about the actual movie, but that's what the main thing what people didn't like about it, and so this whole narrative was like, if you didn't like the movie, whether it be because of the whole Luke thing or whatever, you didn't like women, because there was a lot of female characters in that movie. Of course, Rey was the main character. There was Admiral Holdo. There was Rose. There was, well, of course, Princess Leia. Basically, just you didn't like women, and then it got even further where it's just like Star Wars fans bullied Kelly Marie Tran, who was, I believe, the woman who played Rose. I could be wrong. Yep, yes, she is. To just double check that, and then basically, like, they bullied her off social media, which, okay. I mean, I'm not gonna say it didn't happen, but I couldn't find any evidence that it did. I'm not saying that it didn't, but I'm just saying that I couldn't find any, so, I know, maybe somebody else found that I was just being an idiot. But, again, this whole narrative was that Star Wars fans are terrible, terrible people. In fact, some people say they were Nazis, which was a stretch to be sure, and a big one. And then it got even bigger when the director of the movie, Rian Johnson, comes out and just starts literally attacking the fans, saying they didn't like his movie. They were, again, terrible, terrible people. And then, once again, the freaking Republican media, Fox News, got involved saying, again, they're trying to erase the men. They don't like men. Which, okay. I mean, I think that's kind of crazy, but I think we've all gotten to the point where, what was I saying? Yeah, I'll probably just edit out the last 30 seconds of that. Okay, so I think you can see where this is going. Basically, the news media were and it got even weirder when about a year and a half later in 2019, early 2019, two movies came out. That was Alita: Battle Angel, and the other one was Captain Marvel, where the media, instead of celebrating the fact that we had two action movies with women as the main characters, they were just like, if you don't see Captain Marvel, how dare you? And if you go see Alita, you're a terrible person. Which, that's crazy. But that's what happened, and, well, there were some very sketchy things about Captain Marvel. No, I'm not saying there are actual pictures. You can look this up for yourself. But there are actual pictures of so-called sold-out movie theaters for Captain Marvel, and no one's in them. There was very shady stuff going on with that movie. But anyway, I can't remember. I'll try and see if I can find it. Maybe I'll edit it into here. But there's an audio clip of movie critics who are, paid to honestly review movies, and they literally admitted that they biasly review certain products just so they can get benefits the next time. Like, he literally says that they won't say if they like the movie, that they dislike the movie, so they can go and come back and get, like, the special benefits when the next movie comes out. Literally admitted it live on air. And then, then the movies actually came out, and everyone liked Alita. It's probably one of the best live action adaptations of an anime. And Captain Marvel got mixed reviews, let's just put it lightly. And, well, once again, I think we already just covered that, didn't we? Yep, I'm repeating myself now. Okay, next topic. Also, I remember in 2021, they kept on bringing up The Last Jedi again. Yeah. So in 2021, they kept on bringing up The Last Jedi, like, how, like, it was so great, which, why am I even discussing that? And now I'm wondering out loud, now I'm rambling again. I'm gonna have to cut out the last minute. So much editing to do. So much editing. Also, another area I think where this is prevalent is comic books. Now, let's be completely honest with this. Comic books have always been political. All the way back since the 60s and all that. Hell, even back since the 30s and the 40s, they've been political in a way. I mean, literally the first Captain America comic from 1941, which, let's remember, this was back in March, and America didn't enter the war until December, because Pearl Harbor. Literally the first issue is Captain America punching Hitler right in the face. So I think that it was pretty political back then. I mean, that was a very big statement, you know? I mean, the guy's dressed in an American flag and he just punched the leader of Nazi Germany. It got very serious for them. And actually, they got so many. The writers and the artists for that issue got so many death threats that they call them the FBI, which is a whole story in and of itself. It's actually really interesting. But in the last 10, 15 years, where okay, before we get just remembering this, before we get into that, Stanley once said that he always tried to work in politics in the background. You want to beat them over the head with it. And again, Chris Claremont, who you might know as the guy who wrote X-Men for like 17 years, from 1975 to 1992. And basically this whole thing was, you gotta have you can have the politics, you just gotta have like a good story and good action, because if that's not there, no one's gonna care about the political messaging. And basically what happened in the last 10, 15 years is they've been leaning more towards the politics to the point where they're bashing people over the head with it. And I think one of the more prominent choices that is again Captain Marvel, which I know we just discussed the movie, but now we're going to discuss the comic books. And people were not so happy with being beaten over the head with politics, with the the writers' political views. And the writer, I'll never forget this, literally on air in an interview said, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. And well, they didn't buy the book, and now the sales are down the toilet. And again, over and over again in comic books, where the writers shoving their own political beliefs in, it's not nuanced in any way whatsoever. And that's not what people are there for when they buy superhero comics. So again, the sales fall. I think the big problem with that is there's an old saying in customer service where the customer's always right. And I think people are forgetting that. Especially in comic books. Now back to the main thing in news media, where I think that this relates is the news media was touting these comic books as like the best of all time, and there was literally one where they were calling and that the old where they said that the new comic books were better because they were, and even though the sales were terrible, and that the old comic books, which used to sell millions of copies every issue, were bad, and that they should have done more. And there was one where I will never forget where they called Chris Claremont a racist because he used the N-word to prove a point that racism is bad. No, I'm not joking. They took it out of context and they just said bad, he used N-word. So I think the whole point of this is the news media, especially since 2016, with the whole Trump, where they literally admitted it's like 6 months ago, where they would literally put Trump in the title to get more views. I think that they've gone a bit off their rocker, but as always with economics, the market is correcting itself because, well, that tends to happen. Where if you've been noticing, a lot of news corporations have been getting shut down. Vice Media just, well, they're on their last legs. BuzzFeed just shut down. A lot of gaming news sites, which is a whole nother thing. I mean, Jesus Christ, Kotaku. Just quick tangent, but oh my god. Kotaku has apparently been blacklisted by Nintendo. And So in response to getting blacklisted, they decided to publish all of the leaks and spoilers for the new Legend of Zelda game, which is just such a childish thing to do. What the hell? Aren't you guys adults over there? Grow the hell up. Anyway, I think back to the market correction. A lot of the gaming sites are getting shut down. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that people don't want biased news. It's why I think YouTubers are doing so well, where a lot of the YouTubers are actually giving unbiased, fair news, where the media isn't. I think that's why, views are down for CNN. Views are down for NBC. Views are down for Fox News. All of these big news corporations are losing viewers because I think people are going to more independent sources, smaller news corporations, more local ones, YouTubers and all that. So that's a bit more, and we'll get into more of the political stuff because that's really interesting. But I think I'm just gonna end it here. I got some editing to do.